So you want to disconnect and or remove the telematics unit / TCU from your 2020 and newer Lincoln Aviator. The short and sweet of it is it's right in there. If you read Lincoln's directions, it tells you have to remove all these panels. That's not the case. If you want to get to it really quickly, if you go under here, pull this up. This panel right here disconnects entirely. You need to remove this liner, but there's one clip down here and a few clips, 3 I believe up here, and you can just lift that slightly. You don't even have to remove the whole thing, and the telematics unit is down there. It'll have 2 antenna plugs and a single power and data plug. Now, to get into a bit more detail, more information, why would you want to remove that? Well, if you've had your head in the sand or you're not staying up to date on the news, the telematics units and new vehicles are collecting data on your driving patterns. So how quickly you're accelerating, how hard you brake, and all that information is being transmitted to Ford, Lincoln, Toyota, Chevy, you name it. What they're doing is they're just compounding and stockpiling that data, but they do sell it to data brokers who then parse through the data, sift down to the important data points, and sell that to insurance companies. So insurance rates are going through the roof because people are being accused of driving poorly, even though there's no real context to that information. Just because you brake hard suddenly does not necessarily mean you're a poor driver. You just might be surrounded by poor drivers. Anyway, I digress a bit. If you decide that you want to remove that whole panel, because while the telematics unit is down there, the antenna for the telematics unit is actually up here. There's a small box, and in my vehicle, it's a purple coax cable. It goes up here, and then it's inserted into the antenna. If you want to remove this whole panel and get there, the way to do that, Lincoln has the instructions listed on the website. That's handy, that's nice. A lot of diagrams, they'll show you where the clips are. You need to remove this plastic cover right here. And under there is a 7mm bolt. And the same goes for this side. So those are the only 2 bolts you have to remove. But you're going to have to remove this panel. Before you do that, you're going to have to pull out the weather stripping. So you remove this panel. Then you have to remove this upper panel here. There are 2 clips on the top, 2 on the side here, and then 1 additional. The difference between the 2 here and the 2 here, they're the plastic tabs that slide into I don't know what else to call them, metal clips. So be careful as you're removing those because you don't want to break those plastic tabs. And then the one over here is kind of the traditional Ford little plastic V-clips that they use across all their vehicles. And then there are the additional, retaining clips like you have indoors on the panel there. And then I believe there's one here and another one there. It helps to remove that rear seat. If you want to remove this panel, you're also going to have to remove that rear seat and some additional paneling up. The kick panel, I believe it is, on the rear driver there. And then you'll be able to take this out. But it is kind of a hassle, and then getting it back together is not too bad. But again, it's way more work than it needs to be. So I started the video with the short and sweet of it, and I'll end the video with the short and sweet of it. If you just want to disconnect that telematics unit, all you need to do is go to that panel down there, that bottom panel that's under here. You don't need to remove all of this to get to that. If you want to remove the unit entirely, which I don't recommend, then you will at least have to loosen these panels to get back there with any kind of tools. It's worth noting, and I'll put this in the description as well, if you remove the telematics unit, there is a good chance that you won't be able to update the software on the vehicle. Why would you care about that? Well, if there are any recalls where they need to update like the rear camera software or the radio up front, it's possible that they won't be able to complete that, because I had a recall on another vehicle of mine, a Ford vehicle. I had disconnected the telematics unit in that, and this was actually only a couple of weeks ago. When I took it in to get those recalls taken care of and the software flashed, They spent a day working on it, and they called me and they said, we're having issues. We're going to have to keep it another day. It keeps failing on this one update. And they mentioned the telematics unit. And I said, oh, well, the reason it's failing is because it's disconnected entirely. So food for thought. If you want to just disconnect it so it doesn't function anymore, that's probably the best approach. And then if you ever have to take it to the dealer or a mechanic or whomever, or you're doing the updates and the updates are continuing to fail, don't forget that you disconnected that telematics unit. I believe just disconnecting the power and the data cable should be sufficient, but I just rip all three, both antennas and the data/power cable to the telematics unit. That should suffice. And again, if you find out that impairs some kind of functionality that you use, if you were using your phone, it's obviously the app on the phone, it's obviously not going to work anymore. So you're going to have to learn to live without that. But in my opinion, that's a lot better than being tracked. And if you absolutely have to have that functionality, you might consider a third-party service, either a remote start that you use a click or two, or there are services like Drone Mobile where you get both a remote start and you can use an app on your phone. Downside, cost of subscription. Upside, as best as I know, although I can't say beyond a shadow of a doubt, that data is not collected and funneled to insurance companies. Anyway, there you go.